Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and we have some breaking news when it comes to the car market and tariffs. We're going to talk about both new cars and used cars in today's video. Tariffs were just fully implemented 2 days ago on April 2nd. I'm filming this video on April 4th. I'll be posting it on April 5th. So you guys will be watching this, 3 days into the whole tariff situation. But yeah, it has absolutely just rocked the car world in a massive way. We'll talk about it. Before we get into the video though, as always, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's dive right into it. So let's first talk about new cars. What I have seen all across the country is dealers charging tariff fees on cars. Now, here's what we need to understand before I kind of dive a little bit deeper into this. Again, April 2nd was the first day of the tariffs. So that means that cars that are built with foreign parts or built overseas or both, right, that are shipped into the US after that point will have a tariff on them. Cars with foreign parts or built overseas or just outside of the US that were shipped into the US prior to that date do not have the tariff. What dealers are doing, new car dealers, not every single new car dealer, but a lot of new car dealers, is they're tacking on tariff fees onto cars that are already in their inventory that don't actually have a tariff on the car. And so it's just a cash grab. Now, we all knew this would happen. Every single one of us knew this would happen, and it's exactly what has happened. So the funny thing though is that people are a lot smarter today, and also people are very interconnected because of social media. And so these dealers are getting called out left and right already. Like, this is something that, maybe a few people will fall for it, but the vast majority are not. What I'm actually hearing from a lot of dealers is that customers are calling into them from out of state because they were about to purchase a car from a local dealership, but they are no longer going to be doing that car purchase because the local dealership is trying to charge them a tariff fee. So these dealers are basically trying to get some quick cash, and all that's going to end up happening is they're going to continue to run their reputation, and customers are going to go buy from other dealers. Like I said, a few people will fall for the trick, but most people won't. So understand, the best way to get around this situation is ask a dealership for the invoice of the car, and just find out when that car was actually, when it arrived at the dealership. If the car was shipped into the US, arrived at the dealership prior to April 2nd, it does not have a tariff on it, right? Now, obviously, if a car was ordered prior to April 2nd, but didn't arrive to the US until after April 2nd, yeah, that car's, if it's in one of the tariff areas, it's gonna have a tariff on it. But again, cars built, shipped, and arrived in the US prior to the April 2nd date do not have tariffs on it. So don't fall for the BS dealer fee of dealers saying, hey, this car's $5,000 more because the tariffs. The next car that comes in might be, but that car, no, that car's not. Now, used cars are also absolutely exploding with this tariff situation. The difference with the used car market to the new car market is the used car market is real with the explosion. Again, new car prices are going up because dealers are just greedy and they're trying to get some quick cash while the getting is good, or while they think the getting is good. With used cars, what's happening is a few things. So first off, there's a lot of dealerships that have now seen that the new cars they thought they were going to get are no longer going to arrive because the manufacturers are holding these cars at the port so they don't have to pay the tariffs. They're kind of hoping that this tariff situation will end sooner rather than later, and so they're kind of just holding the cars. So what these dealers are doing in reaction is they're buying up a bunch of, these specific dealers are buying up a bunch of used cars because they want to still be able to sell cars, right? They're like, okay, if my new car inventory is going to run out because my manufacturer is holding cars at the port, then I better beef up my used car inventory so that I have something to sell to customers so that I can still make payroll, all that stuff. Well, that's starting to push up used car prices. The next thing that's starting to push up used car prices is perception. So the assumption is that new cars are going to get more expensive. If new car prices go up, then used car prices typically follow as well. So dealers are getting the used cars at what they consider a discount before the prices end up going up. And then the next group is dealers that basically see this whole kind of frenzy and they're jumping into kind of just joining the whole situation because it's, you know how it works, right? It's kind of like the stock market with the used car market. Someone starts, jumping in and buying, and then everyone else kind of jumps in and buys before things get too crazy. And then I'd say the last group of dealers is the group of dealers that basically assumes that we are going to shift towards a used car market in general because of this whole tariff situation based on availability and pricing. And so again, they're just kind of, you know, trying to prepare ahead of time. Now, the real world effects of this is a lot of used cars on the wholesale market have already gone up in price by 2 to 5%. And that's just over the course of like roughly a week or less. And so time will tell in terms of how big this increase will be long term and how long this will last. Will prices come back down? Again, too soon to tell at this point. But what we're seeing is that the used car market is actually increasing in like real prices. Like if wholesale prices go up, that means that eventually retail prices will follow, and then eventually trade-in values will follow. So like the whole used car market is increasing in value as we speak because of this tariff situation. So we can say that that is actual inflation. The new car market, we can't say that there's any inflation there yet, but the used car market, we can say that there is inflation as of right now. But again, it's as of right now, it's also short term. In conclusion, greedy dealers are greedy. Who would have thought, right? Who would have thought? Not unexpected whatsoever. So you as buyers, right? Do as much research as you possibly can before you buy cars always, so that you don't get taken advantage of, so that you pay what you ought to pay for a car, not pay a huge premium because a dealership has decided to take advantage of a situation. And again, you can't blame the dealers, right? You just can't blame them because they're businesses that are in business to make money. That's all they really care about. So just follow, as they say, just follow the money. Follow the money and it will always makes sense. Now, aside from that, again, the used car market is inflating in real terms. It is actually inflating currently. It's too soon to tell if this is going to be long term. My personal take, I think it's going to be long term with certain cars. It's going to be, you know, it's going to depend manufacturer to manufacturer. Like for example, Ford just released big discounts. Stellantis just released big discounts. So with their big discounts on their new cars, that means that the used Fords and the used Stellantis product, they're not going to be as high of a demand, because people are going to look and go, oh, I can buy a new one for a big discount, so why would I pay more for the used one? So the used values on certain cars, I don't think are going to inflate. I think they're actually going to stay the same. They might actually go down a little bit. Again, too soon to tell on that. So it's just gonna be manufacturer to manufacturer on that basis. And an example of a manufacturer where I think prices are probably gonna go up is Porsche, right? Porsche is, again, this is not an official statement. I haven't seen an official statement from them yet, but they're likely to just increase their prices with the tariffs because they believe they have the pricing power, right? They sell cars that are multiple six figures. So used Porsches are probably going to continue to be expensive and probably get even more expensive. That's an example of one way prices going in that direction. So overall, the tariffs are having a real impact. And, you know, people keep telling me that they want me to take a side on this whole tariff situation. They're telling me to stop being a fence sitter. But here's the deal. I just honestly think it's too soon to tell. And I have listened to arguments on both sides. I've listened to the arguments stating that tariffs are just going to make everything more expensive. And again, so far, what we're seeing in the car world is, well, dealers are trying to charge more money for new cars. Some new cars are less expensive, so it's kind of like wishy-washy. Used cars are getting more expensive, so there's actual inflation there. So the people saying that tariffs are just going to cause inflation, well, kind of rings true. But then you have the other people that say, well, yeah, in the short term, there's going to be some pain, but in the long term, it's going to bring more manufacturing to the US, more jobs, which means that's going to help out with our overall GDP. That's going to help out with quality of life. It's ultimately going to bring lower car prices in the long term because, you know, we're going to have more stuff manufactured here, so you're not going to have as much shipping and globalization, yada, 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 right? I've heard arguments on both sides. I think that both sides have good points, and so that's why I'm not picking a side at this point. Once I get more information, once this situation unravels, you know, then I'll eventually probably pick a side. But me personally, I can't predict the future, and I think it's honestly just too soon to tell. So I'll just keep you guys updated in terms of these short-term effects, medium-term effects, all that, as we're seeing them as they unfold. But I'm just not going to pick a side one way or the other until we have a big enough database to see, okay, you know, these tariffs have been out for a year, here's what's happened to car prices. Then I'll say, okay, looks like car prices have objectively gone up, or they've objectively gone down. It's objectively made this better, this, you know. Also supply, that's another important thing. Like, if prices go up and supply decreases, like, I think that'd be bad overall for everyone. But if prices, you know, stay the same and supply goes up, not necessarily the worst situation. You got more options, and then that could be better deals. So I'm rambling. Let me know what you guys think about this whole tariff situation and what it's currently caused. But, well, we have a little bit of a kerfuffle so far.